Dear students of Honors 4th year, hope that you are doing fine at home. I am Shaila Parveen, Assistant Professor of Department of English. Welcome you back to my class on Modern Drama Part 2. In my previous lecture on modern drama, I have discussed about some characteristics of modern drama. And today I am going to discuss another new topic which is related to modern drama, that is the theater of the absurd. So let us discuss our today's topic. Students, at first you need to know what is theater of the absurd, or why do you need to know about the theater of the absurd. If you look at the syllabus, you will find that you have 4 different plays of modern time, that are Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, Harold Pinter's The Caretaker, John Osborne's Look Back in Anger. If you notice the date of publication of all these plays, you will find that except Importance of Being Earnest, all the 3 dramas are written in 1950s and carries the features of absurd play. Though Wilde wrote the play just after the end of Restoration period, it also carries a lot of characteristics of absurd plays. So you need to know about the theater of the absurd. Absurd drama, definition and background. The theater of the absurd is a movement made up of many diverse plays, most of which were written between 1940s and 1960s. The term absurd was originally used to mean out of harmony, illogical, with no purpose. The literature of the absurd applied to a number of works in drama and fiction which have in common the sense that the human condition is essentially absurd and that this condition is adequately represented only in works of literature that are themselves absurd. When these types of plays were first performed, these plays shocked the audiences as these were startlingly different than anything that had been previously staged. In fact, many of them were labeled as anti-plays. In an attempt to clarify and define this radical movement, Martin Esslin coined the term the theater of the absurd in his 1960 book of the same name. He defined it as such because all of the plays emphasized the absurdity of the human condition, whereas we tend to use the word absurd synonymously with ridiculous. Essentially, each play renders man's existence as illogical and moreover meaningless. This idea was a reaction to the collapse of moral, religious, political, and social structures following the 2 world wars of the 20th century. In an essay on Kafka, Ionesco defined the term absurd as follows: absurd is that which is devoid of purpose, cut off from his religious, metaphysical, and transcendental roots. Man is lost. All his actions become senseless, absurd, and useless. Absurd works are dramatic works of certain European and American dramatists of the 1950s and early 60s who adhered to the French-Algerian existentialist philosopher Albert Camus' assessment in The Myth of Sisyphus that in a universe that is suddenly deprived of illusions and of light, man feels a stranger, deprived of memories of a lost homeland, he lacks the hope of a promised land to come. This divorce between man and his life constitutes the feeling of absurdity. This actually represents the pulse of the absurd literature. Critics believe that theater of the absurd arose as a movement from the doubts and fears surrounding World War II and what many people saw as a degeneration of traditional moral and political values. The movement flourished in France, Germany, and England, as well as in Scandinavian countries. In his essay, Myth of Sisyphus, Camus uses the Greek mythological figure Sisyphus to represent a reasonable answer as to why man should not commit suicide in face of a meaningless, absurd existence. Sisyphus, who was condemned to push a boulder up a mountain only to have it roll back down. At the end of the essay, Camus concludes that one must imagine Sisyphus happy, as the struggle of life alone should bring one happiness. Essentially, we can find meaning in living even without knowing why we exist. The absurd dramatist, however, did not resolve the problem of man's meaningless existence quite as positively as Camus. In fact, they typically offered no solution to the problem whatsoever, suggesting that the question is ultimately unanswerable. I will discuss about the features of absurd play. At first, the structure of an absurd play. The absurdist playwrights therefore did not follow the logical structures of traditional theatre. There is little dramatic action as conventionally understood. However, frantically the characters perform. Their business serves to underscore the fact that nothing happens to change their existence. In Beckett's Waiting for Godot, plot is eliminated and a timeless circular quality emerges as two lost creatures spend their days waiting, but without any certainty of whom they are waiting for or of whether he or it will ever come. Now, the use of language in an absurdist play. An absurdist play is often dislocated, disintegrated, reduced to minimal sentences, full of cliches, puns, repetitions. The characters talk, repeating the obvious until it sounds like nonsense, thus revealing the inadequacies of verbal communication. The ridiculous, purposeless behavior and talk give the plays a sometimes dazzling comic surface, but there is an underlying serious message of metaphysical distress. At the same time, the impact of ideas as expressed by the surrealist, existentialists, and expressionist schools are evident. The movement of the characters on stage often contradicts their words or dialogues. For example, both acts of Waiting for Godot conclude with the line, "Yes, let's go," only to be followed by the stage direction, "They do not move." Essentially, the dramatists are trying to emphasize a disconnect between word and object, meaning and reality, on consciousness and the world. Moreover, in doing so, the characters expose how unreliable language is. One can easily say one thing and do the opposite. In fact, to shake audiences from their more conventional viewing habits, the playwrights of the absurdist theatre used traditional settings to ease the audience in their play and then shocked them with surreal imagery, uncommon circumstances, and fragmented language. The theatre of the absurd is characterized by a few recurrent devices such as short sentences, question and answer or question question pattern of conversation, meaningless conversation and unsatisfactory answer, etc. Lack of plot. Another aspect of absurdist plays is that they lack a plot or a clear beginning and end with a purposeful development in between. The repetition of the action suggests that the play isn't actually going anywhere. In Waiting for Godot, Vladimir and Estragon repeatedly rummage through their pockets and peer into their heads. These actions are so frequent, however, that the audience begins to feel as if they are watching the same thing over and over again. Static actions contribute nothing to the flow of the play, yet this lack of purposeful movement in Waiting for Godot and most other absurdist dramas is intentional. While absurdist plays feature a wide variety of subject matter, there are certain themes or ideas which reoccur frequently within the movement. These themes are the product of a new attitude that swept post-World War II Europe. Two themes that reoccur frequently throughout absurdist dramas are a meaningless world and the isolation of the individual. Several of the founding works of the movement include Jean Genet's The Maids, Eugene Ionesco's The Bald Soprano, Arthur Adamov's Ping Pong, Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, Harold Pinter's The Room and The Birthday Party, etc., and a few others shared a pessimistic vision of humanity, struggling vainly to find a purpose and to control its fate. Some of the major literary figures of the theatre of absurd are Samuel Beckett, Arthur Adamov, Eugene Ionesco, Jean Genet, Edward Albee, and Harold Pinter. Originally shocking in its flouting of theatrical convention, while popular for its apt expression of the preoccupations of the mid-20th century, the theater of the absurd declined somewhat by the mid 1960s. Beckett's death in 1989 is said to mark the close of the movement's popularity, though some of its innovations had been absorbed into the mainstream of theater, even while serving to inspire further experiments. Some of the chief authors of absurd have sought new directions in their art, while others continue to work in the same vein. Well, my dear students, that is all for today. Thank you very much for listening to my lecture. Hope to meet you again with another new topic.